Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I am so happy and excited to have with me today this happy man. Not let's just look at his face and you will know who he is. He is Edwin, and Edwin is just a minute. I want to see if I can bring him to single screen. Okay. Yes. So Edwin is the Chief Happiness Officer and he runs a beautiful project called the Happy Neighborhood Project. And I'm so happy to be associated with this happy man and the happy project because that's making my life so happy. So welcome Edwin, welcome to today's show, and we are really very happy to have you with us today.
I am very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so we are here today to be talking about spreading happiness through communities. How does a community help us to spread happiness? So, Edwin, I want to really get down to starting right from the beginning that we know your story. We know the story of your, uh, all of us have gone through it, and I've been spreading that story. So, all my people on my network know what happened in 2009 recession and how you went into onto the streets and created all that happiness around. And then you were recognized by the UN in 2014. You gave a TEDx talk, all that. I want to take a little U-turn back to say what was happening before 2009 and how did you get this idea of creating or generating or spreading happiness?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you again for having me. Yes, if we go back, I was running a business just like anybody else. I own a computer, I own a mobile app business, and where we create fun mobile apps for different people. And it was fun. I've always been a happy person. And so, as the news of the recession started to come in, I started to notice that even the people that were my friends that were happy, their mood started going down. And I think that's when I start to kind of get curious. Everybody understand, the area that we were living in Sacramento, California, was very hit, was hard hit by the recession. A lot of people were losing their homes, they were losing their jobs. And even I joke about it, 401k became 101k. And so I noticed people that were really happy people, even the guy I play racquetball with. And you start to think, and I'm like, whoa, what's going on? And so that's when, I just started to think, okay, what can I do as an individual? And I do a lot of meditation. And so one day out of meditation, I just was feeling even happier than my normal self. So I knew something was different, but I wasn't sure what was different. And so as a result of that, I just went out on the street. And that's really how it started. It wasn't something that I planned. It wasn't even supposed to be a big deal. It was just following my feeling that what can I do if I can help just one person, to be happy, to shift their mind and then say, oh, okay, that was it. And then, of course, one person became two and two became three, and the rest of the story.
Yeah, thank you so much. But while you were doing that, how did then it develop into building such a huge community of 70,000 plus people? I don't know what the current score is because every day I keep seeing the community expanding. So
Yes.
I know the last time I heard was 70,000. So what's it now?
So there are two organizations. Okay, the one organization I started back in 2009 is the I Am Happy Project. And that was targeted to just individuals because individuals were really hard hit by the recession. They were the ones that were losing their job. And so that organization grew to 64 cities in 19 countries. And that's a project that was recognized at the United Nations. Now, if we fast forward, to 2020, the Happy Neighborhood Project was about businesses. So it was kind of like we wanted to do for businesses what we did for individuals during the recession. And so when the pandemic hit, we were looking at, okay, how can we support the local small business owner, the professional. And that's when on March 20th, the whole idea was to host the International Day of Happiness. Again, it wasn't supposed to be what it turned out to be now. It was we were going to celebrate International Day of Happiness. We had businesses coming, except that they enjoy it so much. And I know that the pandemic has a lot to do with it. When people were sheltered at home, and not all of a sudden they have an opportunity to be with a group of other people that somehow were happy, even though the pandemic was going on, they were somehow happy. And so that 55 minutes became an opportunity for people to just forget about all the pandemic and just focus on their own happiness. And then all of a sudden, they start to collaborate in doing business together. So we started out, the one event was Northern California, and it was supposed to be, again, celebrate International Day of Happiness. And then people started to ask for more. So the next week, we saw more people show up. So we decided, okay, we're going to keep the one for Northern California, but we're going to do a separate one that we call nationwide. So anybody from anywhere can come. So it was two events for some time. And then as more people start showing up, we realized, okay, I think there's a need here to move this thing closer to the community. So we started to do events like by state. So we did an event for like Texas, we did for Florida, it was in New York. It was just one event each for the whole state. And then we realized it was, when you look at the happy neighborhood, the whole idea is for neighborhood to be close to the community. So when you do one thing for the whole state, it wasn't really close to the community. So we decided, okay, we'll do Southern Florida, and then we'll do Northern Florida. Then we did Central Florida. Then we did West Florida. And then it just go on. Just like we are talking about now in India. We started out with one big India, and then you came in and you blow it up. And now that it's blown up, now we got to have Northern India and Southern India. And then hopefully we just keep growing like that. Because the whole goal is to bring it closer and closer to the community, to the neighborhood, and while at the same time still having a global feeling, So it's almost like you can be talking to somebody across your street, across your neighborhood, but you can also be talking to somebody across the country. So that's kind of the whole idea.
Thank you so much. And now you see, we have already started getting people joining us. And you find my friend Rukia Khan, and you see on the screen, she having in her hand all the happy faces. And she's from Abu Dhabi and a very, very good friend of mine. So very happy, Rukia, to bring your happiness into the pool. And that is how I think, one matchstick fire, and then it fires another one, and it lights another one, and it lights another one. That is how this happiness has been spreading across the world. So we in India came into the fold of Happy Neighborhood Project in November 2020. And I joined it in the very first meeting I was there. And after a few weeks, then on Edwin asking me, would you like to take on as co-host? In the beginning, I was hesitant because of my commitments and time. And then he said something to me, which actually sucked me into the organization, when he said, I've read about you, I've known about you, and wouldn't you be able to sacrifice a little bit of your time for the good of the community? And that is where that word community, which I was also very strongly believing in, and he was already into building a community. So I jumped in. And then from that day till today, I've not missed a single Wednesday, not a single one. And then we took it as a challenge. And I know growing from 11, 12, 15 people every week. Now we generally get about 60 to 70 people in the room. And as Edwin just said, so guys, in India, we are going to split into two parts, North and South India. And maybe like what he said with Florida, there'll be East India, West India. I don't know what we'll do. But yes, the fire is ignited, it's catching, it's flaming, and I'm sure it will really, really spread. So, coming to the word of community, Edwin, I would like you to throw some light on how did you connect happiness with community building? And because you have built such, you now you talked of two communities, the one which was for individuals, I am happy, and now you built for the happy neighborhood project. I would like you to throw some light on your take on community building.
Well, first of all, as human being, we are social being, okay? And as social being, we are community. And when I went out in 2009 and started interviewing people about happiness, the one thing that kept coming up and coming up were, like I call it the three F's, your faith, your friends, and your family. Family was a really big foundation. If you're going to be happy, whether it's a family that is husband and wife, or brothers and sister, or friends, or co-worker, that's what make communities, and so when I see people, and they are doing whatever they do, it almost always come back to not just themselves. I mean, because there's only so much resources you can use for yourself. It is your ability to use resources for the community that really makes people happy. When you look at people living legacy, they are not talking about living legacy because they were able to do something by themselves, or because they were able to help themselves, or they even help their immediate family. People live legacy because they were able to have impact on community. And that's really where the happiness is. The Dalai Lama said the purpose of life is to be happy. And we also realize to truly be happy is not just self-centered, it's the impact you can have on other people's life. And when you have impact on other people's life, then you are having impact on the whole community.
So nice, so profound. And I think what you said is so powerful, that communities have a power to spread things like no individuals can do. And
Absolutely not.
I always talk about the four C's, because I've also built some communities. So let me just share a little bit here, that right from my childhood, and the first case I remember is when I was just about 15 and I joined the National Defense Academy. And
Yes.
there were, we used to have get-togethers. Now that time there was no internet, there were no communities like Yahoo groups and Google groups and all that. So we used to have get-togethers, and I found that all schools would have get-togethers, but my school was not having a get-together. And I was just a first termer, just joined. And when I asked some seniors, they were not very keen to do it. So I said, okay, I'll do it. As a first termer, I organized a get together in the cafeteria, and we had about 40 of us meet. And that is where my first community started. And then I built many communities like that. In 2016, but we never called them a community. We used to call them groups and all. In 2016, I started doing a program in India called the Train the Super Trainer. And when I did the first batch, I told people that we are going to do many other batches, and all batches are going to merge together and form a community. And that's the
Yes.
first time we called it a community and started building a community. And in the pandemic, we grew from that TTST to TTOT, which is train the online trainer, when we realized that now no longer can you be doing face to face training for some time. And we realized that our stage is now a screen of 16 by 9, where you have to, you know so let's do something. So I then also realized that webinars were getting very, very boring. Right in the very first month, people are getting boring webinars. So we said we created something called Hive, and Hive is high impact virtual engagement. So that is what we started. Now, when we are coming to communities, and because I have built communities, and I just I'm very fond of them. And I was telling you, I use some very fundamental thing in all my communities, and I call it 4 C's. And the 4 C's are co-create, contribute, collaborate, and with these three things, co-elevate. And that is what we are doing even in HNP. We are co-elevating, that everyone is helping everyone else. And now it's not happening in India, thanks to pandemic and thanks to Zoom, that we are doing it across the country, across the world. And on Friday nights we get together, and worldwide, and you're meeting people from different countries. It's so amazing. So, Edwin, I would like to ask you that when we've spoken this much about communities, what about uh, some essential things that you think a community must have? What are those essential ingredients that we must keep in mind? And this for those people who like to build their communities. If you want to build your community either for business or for learning, so there are learning communities, there are business communities, what would you be what would you like to suggest as some essential things that you must keep in mind?
Well, I think it has to be the one thing that has to be really clear in a community for it to really thrive is that everybody have to be on the same wavelength, They have to understand, they have to be a common purpose. When the one of the main reasons that the Happy Neighborhood Project has thrived and thrived very well, very quickly, is that we came in and we wanted to shift people's mind from all the negativity about pandemic into something that can actually help them, to just survive. At first people think, oh, they were coming here to build business. No, in the beginning, it wasn't about building business. It was about being together. That was what it was about. And there is a book that was written by Chinwe Achebe. It is a Nigeria Nobel Prize laureate in literature. And he wrote the book Things Fall Apart. In that book, Things Fall Apart, he said that when the king's men, come to your house, and stay in your compound to watch the moon, it's not because they cannot see the moon from their yard, they can see the moon from their yard. Or when they come to your house to feast with you, it's not because they cannot afford food in their own house. It's the reason that they come is because of the community, it's because of the relationship, it's because of the camaraderie, And so they got to be a common purpose whereby, that everybody coming together, to support each other. And then so now, once that is clear that, okay, I'm coming here to support, it's not just I'm coming here to take, because, even sometimes people might not fully understand the purpose of community. So initially they might say, oh, I'm coming to take. But then when they get there and they feel the dynamics of the community, they start to realize, hey, wait a second, in order for this community to continue to grow, I have to put into it, I have to give, And so the whole dynamics of giving becomes very powerful because nobody can take or receive without somebody's giving, So once the purpose is clear, everybody understands why they are coming there, and they are coming there to support each other, then to collaborate and all this kind of stuff. Now you can see a community that can really thrive. But the purpose has to be clear. I have to understand why should I become part of this community? What can I do to support this community? And then naturally, I will be able to take out of the community in the process. But the purpose has to be the first thing that is very clear. And it has to be clearly communicated to everyone in order for them to know what's going on in the community. And I'll tell you one of the things that's very exciting with our community, and I've seen this play out a lot, is, when you first come and now we're going to the breakout room, you never know who you're going to be in the breakout room with. You can be in the breakout room with somebody across the street from you in your local community, or you can be in the breakout room with somebody across the state, from you. or you can be in a breakout room with somebody across the country, from you. So the community just get bigger, in the process. So that's very exciting for what we have done.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So when you talked of support, I have a friend called Gautam Ganglani who's written a book called Breaking Bread. And what he says there is that why do we always, when you get together, and that's been a question in my mind, any celebration ends up in eating. So I said, why is there is eating the only way to celebrate? But whether it's somebody's birthday or anniversary or anything, what are you doing? I'm going out for dinner. Okay. So what he says in his book called Breaking Bread is that when you break bread together, and just you said, when people come, it's not because they don't have food at home. They breaking bread together means that you are having food and talking over that food, and that creates an environment of support. And
Yes.
that supporting environment is something that we really need to be consciously aware of, because that brings us a lot of unity there. Okay. Now, when you started,
Let me just add very quickly to that. And I'm sure one of the main reasons breaking bread is so impactful, or just sharing food together is impactful. I tell people, happiness is so simple. Okay, it's so simple. And when it's all said and done, all the hustling that we do and trying to create this empire and everything, the only thing that we can really say is us is the food that we eat. That's the only thing. When it's all said and done, I mean, when you eat the food and it nourish your body, it kind of enhance your own performance. And so I can see why, even when it's face-to-face networking, it comes down to a little bit of food here and there, because that's one thing that really, really, that you can say as a human being that you need, to nourish yourself. And when you get to share with somebody else, that means that you and that person really have a camaraderie, going. There's nothing like, you see some people, they say, oh, I just want to eat by myself. The food tastes differently when you eat by yourself than when you eat with somebody else. So yeah, definitely.
thank you so much. That was absolutely powerful. So nice. So, when you build such a big community, and yeah, I wanted to know whether now is it 70,000 or more? What is the current number of the community of HNP?
So in terms of HMP right now, we have about 20,000 plus registration on a monthly basis. Okay, so in terms of the total numbers, we've not really looked at that. We just continue to see how we can create more events and how the event grows, because we know that if we have events that kind of really help people, like I'll give you an example. A lady from Texas came to us and he said, "Hey, what if we have HMP Texas women?" Because like women tends to network a little bit different than men network. And at first we were like, man, we don't know how that will change what we are doing. But then just after a little thinking, it just makes sense, because it allows them to create a community, of women that really want to network with each other. So now with that, we have, a few more of the women group. And then we have, somebody came to us and say, hey, what if we have a HMP for Hispanic, What if we have HMP for people with disability, And what if we have HMP for people with real estate need, So all of a sudden, the needs just grow, but all of it's now a community within a community that is creating. It is exciting.
It is really powerful, really powerful. So, when you're creating all these communities, what are the challenges you've come across, and how would you recommend to people to overcome challenges that you can come across?
I think the biggest thing, and this is almost a common denominator with all challenges, especially challenges that have to do with another human being, is communication. It is communication. And I have seen over and over, where a lack of communication just compound a very small challenge and make the challenge bigger, And so if you think somebody is doing something or not doing something, then communicate. Because in the process of communicating, you are able to come up with solution a little bit quicker. And then because again, we all communicate slightly differently. And so don't assume what somebody is trying to communicate with you. If you don't understand what they're communicating with you, reach out to them and let them explain until you understand what they're trying to communicate with you. Because when one thing, I think it was 2 Sundays ago, when I teach the happiness as a skill in the clubhouse, and we talk about assumption and happiness. As human beings, we have to make assumptions in order to survive. For example, when you send me a link for this interview, I assume that once I click the link, it will bring me to where you want me to be. That was an assumption. I don't know if it will or not, but guess what? When I click the link, I was right where you want me to be. So we have to make assumptions. When I go to bed at night, I am assuming I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning, and then I plan accordingly. But when it comes to communication, and instead of building a community, you have to be careful, because when you make an assumption and the assumption is not accurate, then it throw everybody up. So I say, when you combine assumption with communication very clearly, you can build a very healthy community where everybody kind of trusts people that, okay, so here is another thing that's very crucial with community building, is giving benefit of the doubt. Okay, giving benefit of the doubt, because nobody is right all the time. Nobody assumes correctly all the time. Nobody communicates correctly all the time. But if we give each other benefit of the doubt, now all of a sudden we have opportunity to make corrections. We have opportunity to make adjustment. And that's how you create a very healthy community. For example, a person say, I'm going to be at the meeting at so time, and they don't show up at that time. You can't just jump on them and say, oh, wow, they didn't show up, because you don't know what happened, what prevent them from showing up, So give a benefit of the doubt. And then when they do show up, find out what happened, so you communicate, so that way everybody's on the same wavelength and the community is going to thrive. Definitely thrive like that, yes.
So 3 very powerful things you said: communication, assumption, and benefit of doubt. 3 very
Yes.
good things. And I think when it comes to challenges, it is also the miscommunication that becomes the biggest challenge, because when people say something and don't mean what they say, or when you are heard differently than what the person said, now that creates miscommunications in communities. And I have experienced that this miscommunication becomes a very strong reason for a community to fail. It starts even
Absolutely.
from a family, from a small relationship between 2 people. Miscommunication can become a major cause of breakage, or I'll say, dampness coming up in a community.
Yes.
So that is what I thought. Yeah.
And
So
and and also too, that creates a lot of stress. When the intention and the action is not consistent, it creates stress. And that stress can also fragile a community, because I've had situation where people say, oh, I thought you meant this, or I thought you were going to do this, or and nobody end up doing something that anybody could have done, because everybody assumed somebody else was going to do it, so that's, again, that is the kind of stuff that breaks community. And when people come in to a community and they are willing to give each other a benefit of the doubt, now a lot of these things can be fixed before it gets out of hand. Because when it gets out of hand, it becomes very difficult. Yeah.
very good, very well said. Yeah. So now let's come to the other part, and that is that when when you make a wonderful community, you have a solid purpose, and then you also have people going by that, and supporting each other, and that spirit comes up. I think it's something like what we call in the army the spiritic core, that you start uh, feeling for the community, and you will fight for the community, like what we do. You have a war cry, because that is a community where you have your regimental song, you have things like that. So that is where the strength in a community starts coming up. With all that, I think it brings happiness and community together. So any other aspect of this would you like to talk about from your experience?
Yeah, I think you have to understand that there is no community that is static. Okay, no community that is static. You have to continue to nourish the community. You have to continue to add value to the community. You can't say, oh, okay, my community is going really well right now. Let's just leave everything the way it is. No community is going to survive that long without improvement, without adding value to it. And I just gave you an example. When we first started, it was just one event, and then the event started to expand based on locations. We started to expand it based on location. Then we got to a point where we realized, oh, location is good, but we also cannot expand it based on the need of the people, based on, the women wanted to have a group, the LBGT wanted to have a group, the disability, people with disability. Now we have realtors. Now we have business to business. So you have to constantly improve on the community. And even if you look at even physical community, let's say you are in a neighborhood, you have your street lights, you have your street, and then all of a sudden you start to see the street, dilapidating. There start the potholes, and then maybe the street light is no longer working. After some time, that community is going to just fall apart. So the community have to constantly get together and say, hey, wait a second, I saw a pothole on one of the section of the road. Let's go and fix the road. And then we fix the road. Let's change the light bulb. We change the light bulb. Let's bring some new trees into the community. In other words, you have to constantly nourish the community. It cannot be treated as something that is static. It has to be dynamic. It has to continue to evolve. Because guess what? As life itself, life evolves. We don't stay the same. The little kid don't remain little kid forever. The little kid grow up, and stuff like that. So it's also the community. You have to be conscious of the fact that for your community to be vibrant, for your community to be alive, you have to constantly nourish it. You have to constantly find out a way to improve on it. You have to constantly seek the counsel of the members, asking the members and say, hey, what else can we do to make our community better? What else can we do? Because the people that are part of the community make up the community, and they are the one that helps to grow the community. So yes, we have to continue to add value.
Thank you so much. So, Edwin, from all your experience in this project, which now I understand is from March 2020 till now, so a little more than a year. Uh, and of course, I still remember that wonderful International Day of Happiness that we had, uh, particularly with Jerusalem.
Yes.
For us, for me particularly, firstly, of course, I practiced that a lot, because you had given us nice video practice video where you had the tutorial,
Yes.
and it was 12:30 at night, and I was dancing around at the middle of night when everyone seemed to be going off to sleep. Good fun we had. Now,
Yes.
what I was asking you is, can you share with us two three aha moments of your journey where you really found happiness in you because of the happiness in the community? Some aha moments like that.
Well, definitely. I would say for me, if we look at the International Day of Happiness, okay, at the end of the day, where we started to talk to the co-host and the co-host captain and the mentors, and just hearing the way people talk about the role that Happy Neighborhood played in their life during the pandemic, how it literally changed their life, how it grew their business, how they didn't know. There was a gentleman that came to me and he said, Edwin, when this pandemic first happened, I didn't know what to expect. I have been building successful business for the last 25 years. And all of a sudden, I started to feel depressed, and I didn't know what to expect until I came to Happy Neighborhood Project. And when I came to Happy Neighborhood Project, I just came to life. Now, my business had not changed then, but I had hope. And that was exciting. For me, that was like, wow. I didn't, I know we were having impact on people, but I didn't really think that it was that dramatic an impact, that we were having on people. So that was one. And another one, I think it was one of our co-hosts. I think it was either Minnesota or Wisconsin. Okay, and at that time, I was still attending a lot of the events. I was still hosting a lot of the events, and so the lady said, "Oh, can I go into the breakout room for a little bit?" I said, "Oh, sure, I'll be here." So she went into the breakout room, and then she came back with this smile on her face. And I'm like, wow, what happened? He said, I just met the lady across the street from my house in the breakout room. I was like, wait a second, did you know her before? He said, no. He said, we started talking about, oh, where are you from? And she said where she's from. And I said, oh, I'm from that area too. And then she said, oh, but on this area. And he said, yeah, me too. And then, but this area. And then as they said, it started coming closer to home. And then they realized they were just maybe across the block, from each other. And that was like, wow, to me, that we can like be on Zoom and we can be this distance away, and yet we can be this close, to each other. So I think that was very, very powerful,
So
for me.
how you think you need to use the satellite to meet a person across the road?
I know. And one of the good things that actually came out of that is because of the pandemic started to open up a little bit, they become a walking body, They started to walk together, to just kind of remove some of the stress from being locked at home. And so, like you said, it took a Happy Neighborhood Project, a meeting from across all over the space to come to meet your neighbor. And now they start to work together. They go for a walk, they go to the park, they take the kids out together, and it was just exciting.
So it actually justified and validated the center word of HNP, neighborhood. So they,
Neighborhood.
it really brought two
Exactly.
people who are in neighborhood together. Very good,
Absolutely.
powerful. It is powerful, and so another thing that comes to my mind is as a time investment strategist, I tell people that your ultimate goal in life is to be happy, because
Yes.
whatever we do. So I ask, what do you want money for? To get happiness. Why do you want promotion? To get happiness. Your sense of achievement, to get happiness. So really speaking, a life of fulfillment and a life of happiness is something every human being looks forward to.
Yes.
And because we come to this planet for a fixed period of time, we don't know how much, but we know it's fixed. And because we are mortal and we got fixed life, we look at how to get the best out of that limited time. And that happens only if you are able to utilize your time properly. And I don't say spend time, I don't say utilize time, I say invest time. Because when you invest, you start get looking for a return, because I think your subconscious mind is very sensitive to the words you use. So when you say I'll spend half an hour, spend is like an expense on the balance sheet, it's going to go away. It is
Yes.
just an expense.
Yes.
Okay. The moment you say, I will invest 30 minutes, you start looking at, your subconscious mind now has a task. What is the return I'm going to look for? So What are your views on the importance and relevance of time when it comes to achieving happiness?
So when I went out in 2009 and interviewed over 1,000 people on the subject of happiness, I put together the 10 ways to be happy. Okay, and this is a 10 way to be happy card. And item number 8 of the 10 ways to be happy, it says learn to manage your time and your money. Okay, those are the two resources that were very powerful that affect levels of happiness in a high degree. Okay, especially time, more than money. Okay, because when you think about it, every human being, it doesn't matter whether you are rich or you are poor or you are black or you are white or you are tall or you are short or you are slim or you are fat, it doesn't matter. We all have the same number of hours in a day. It is a very level playing field, and so that, just like you were saying about investing time, I never tell people that I don't have time. I just never say it, because I feel like I can make time for anything that's important to me. I can always make time, and so the way you relate to time becomes very crucial. There are people who look at time as if that time is short, that there's shortage of time, that they're going to run out of time, that they don't have time. And they always go in a very frantic way, because they're always operating on this mentality that, oh, they're going to run out of time. I don't think any human being can ever run out of time. Okay. Now your project can run out of time, but you as a human being cannot run out of time unless on that day when you took your last breath, and then that's the end of that. Okay. And so the way you relate to time has a very, very direct correlation to your level of happiness. Okay. If you look at time as a shortage, if you look at time as you running out, if you look at time as a time crunch, all of those things increases your stress level. And if you increase your stress level, you cannot be happy. You cannot even function very well, at some point. And so you have to develop a relationship with time that allow you to say, you know what? I am in control of my time. Yes. And it doesn't matter whether you have a 9 to 5 job or whether you run your own business or whether you are retired. None of that really matter. It's just an attitude. If you have a 9 to 5 job and somehow you still feel like you are in charge of your time, when you come to work, you have pledged certain amount of time to that work. And the way you carry yourself, the way you execute that work, is a reflection on you. So whether somebody is monitoring you or nobody is monitoring you, the attitude you have towards time is a direct correlation to the level of happiness you have. And so when you take your time, and some people will say, oh, they're wasting time. No, you can't really waste time, but the attitude you have is so crucial. So I tell people, manage your time, and because if you manage your time better than you actually manage your money, you might never run out of money. Okay. Because we know that time is one that translates not only to money, it translates to satisfaction, it translates to a whole lot of other stuff. So yes, time is really, really very, very worthwhile in terms of just understanding, how do you relate to time? What is your attitude about time? And how do you value time? All of those things play a role in terms of your level of happiness. Because if you feel like you are free and you have all the time in the world, you're going to be a happy person. When you feel like you are crunched and you're running out of time, you're going to be unhappy person. It's just that simple.
Very good. Absolutely powerful. So, in my book, this is a chapter called Busy Are You? And there's a story here. And ever since I went through that incident where my brother in law told me, he said, I wanted some favor from him. And he said, why are you asking so hesitatingly? I said, I know you're so busy and I know that you will not have time for it. And that is why I was hesitating that, can you do this for me? And then he said something. He says, whenever you say, I'm busy, it means I do not consider your work important enough.
Right.
And then from that day till today, like what you said, I have never ever told somebody I'm busy. I don't have some tell somebody I don't have time. I just say it doesn't fit into my priority right now. Can we do it next week?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. So this is
Or,
what.
or, 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 or it might not even fit into your priority for you to do it. You can help them connect with somebody who can do it, you know?
Ex- yeah, yeah, exactly.
Because it's not everything you have to do. It's not because you don't have time, it's just you are not the one to do it. Somebody else might do it better. Somebody, so that's the kind of thing. It's just is help to direct. And I think that's why some people have problem with delegation. They feel like they have to do everything by themselves. No, you don't. Because somebody else could do it way better than you. Let that person do it.
I'm so happy to hear that because I give such examples in what I call compounding of time. And
Yes.
that is when I say that you can create more than 24 hours in a day. Because if you buy somebody's time, which means like if I've got a social media team and they work for me, I pay them. So they add to my work. So that means I'm actually investing into buying time of people to get more work done in a day. And this is something so beautiful that you said that you don't have to do everything yourself. You can connect to somebody else and the same job gets done. So that is your power of multiplication.
Absolutely.
Oh, very
Absolutely.
good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
So,
And also too, you can put yourself in a position where you supervise as opposed to doing the real thing. Some people say, oh, if I don't do it myself, I'm not going to be satisfied. Well, you are kind of holding yourself back because there's only so many things you can do yourself. But if you put yourself where you supervise, now all of a sudden, Paul is doing one thing, Mary is doing another thing, Joe is doing another thing, and Joanne is doing something else. Now, but you are supervising. So what that does is it actually raises the quality of your time because you are not only multiplying the time, but you're also multiplying the value that's coming as a result of that time.
okay. So that was absolutely nice. And I really enjoyed this conversation with you, Edwin. I feel that in the last 50 minutes that we've been together on this conversation, I've certainly become happier because I've heard so many happy things to listen to. And I'm sure our viewers, and maybe because it's got a little late for people in India, that I don't find many people there right now. And I haven't found any questions coming up. I'm sure there'll be lots of things coming up and when people listen to the recording. So thank you very much for being with us. And I think it was a very enjoyable and a very insightful conversation. And I've loved being with you on this conversation. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And I want to say thank you for all the wonderful things you are doing. I can already tell, not just the people in India, because of course the people in India are very, very happy with you, but we are also seeing that the people worldwide, they see the energy that you bring in, they see the consistency that you bring in. And so your impact is not just in India now, your impact is now worldwide. So for that, I am very thankful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And equally, I'll say that energy, that happiness, that inspiration comes from you. And I'm very grateful to you for all the support. Okay. So we've got a question coming up. Yes, Fani, please get your question. We've been looking for questions. Yeah. So can we have your question quickly so that uh, we can have Edwin answer that question? That question is taking time. Mhm. Okay. Uh, yeah, so last week was your birthday on this day, and we were planning actually to come out with a very nice surprise for you. and we have prepared a recorded song which we are going to play in the half show. But then you didn't
Oh,
turn up and we missed it.
oh wow. I am very sorry about that.
Okay. So belated happy birthday to you from all of us in HNP India.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. So Fani Mohan says in a community there are different opinions with different people. How do you mitigate?
So the best way is listen. And then we talked earlier about communication. And one very vital part of communication is listening. And I know that a lot of time, especially in the community, people like to talk, and if everybody start talking and not enough people listening, there could be a breakdown. So I would say the first thing is just listen. What is really, giving people the opportunity to share their opinion, because you never know, a person that you might think, oh, I don't want to pay attention to this person, might be the person that brings the idea that changes everything. So everybody coming with their opinion, everyone listen to each other, because if we listen to each other, we can have a full understanding of what the person is really coming from. And then once everyone have been listened to, now we can isolate what is the differences, what is creating the confusion, and then that's when you can start to mitigate the differences, in people. But I think in terms of, really solving problem or solving challenges in a community, I think the key word is just listening. I'm sure you probably heard of it. Like we have one mouth and two ears, and we should use it accordingly. If we listen enough, we can usually find out the problem that is going on, and it's a little bit easier to solve at that time. And thank
Thank
you, Fanny, for the belated birthday.
So funny if that was the answer you got, and I'm sure that has answered your question so well. If I may just add a little to what Edwin has said, that uh, you know what we learn in the army is to, like, we are all from different communities, different religions, and we go and fight a war together. What we understand is we start respecting each other's opinion, and while we don't agree with it, but if for the common goal, if it is to be done despite the disagreements, we do it with love and willingness. So somewhere it is a matter of bringing a culture of respecting others' opinions, even if they don't coincide with yours. That's the only way a community, a family, an organization, a team can work together. Do you agree with that, Edwin?
Absolutely, yes. Respect is very big. Respect is very big. And the thing that I will add to the respect, and this is really from a point of view of happiness, is compassion. Okay. When you are compassionate to others, then you are more willing to respect their opinion, and you are more willing to listen to them, really listen to them. Because sometimes people just listen, they listen what I call superficial, they just listen or pretend listening. But when you really listen to somebody, you can see the value that they bring to the table. So yes, if you are compassionate, I think it also helps, to mitigate situation. If somebody think, even if somebody come up with an opinion that maybe they sense that you don't agree with the opinion, but at the same time, they know you respect them, they know you are compassionate, they tend to be less resistant to giving up the opinion than if they feel like you don't care about them, then they want to stand by their opinion, and no matter what. And that's what makes the conflict even more difficult.
Absolutely. So thank you very much, Edwin. And I think now we'll call it off. It's almost an hour. And thank you very much for the investment of your 60 minutes with us. And I do hope you got some good return out of it.
Absolutely. Oh, yes, definitely do. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you, Fanny, for that comment. Thank you very much. Okay. So bye bye. And good night to all of us in India. Good morning and have a great day, Edwin. Thank you
Yes.
very much.
Bye bye now.
Bye.